Wow. 2020 f***ing sucked. But there was some good stuff that came from it. One of them being, well, the video games. This video will be talking about every game I've played, was pretty interested in, plus a few things outside of the medium. And we are going to go through all of it with this lovely Metroid calendar, which you have seen in the background in the first half of the year. But I didn't mark any important moments. I'll be sure to change that for this next year. But for now, let's start with January. Okay, I'm bundling the first 2 months for two reasons. One, it was the time before the world turned into ash, and also there wasn't much to these months in terms of games. I only played Dragon Ball Z Kakarot for January, but I also didn't get to this game until a couple of weeks ago, which is the case for 80% of the games on here. I heard that Kakarot wasn't another fighting game and goes into action RPG, and the action was fun, the rest was not. Why did we need to rehash the original story? Why is the tutorial so slow? Why is Gohan so slow? Yeah, I quit pretty quickly, and I almost don't want to go back to it. Maybe later down the road, but ugh. February was better-ish. There was Dreams, which I didn't play. Space Channel 5 VR looked neat, but I don't have VR, and I still don't know when I ever will. And there was the Mega Man Zero collection. Not much to say there. Only new game I played was Vitamin Connections from Way Forward. I actually thought it was going to be a simple puzzle game, but I was surprised to learn that it was a pseudo-space shooter with occasional minigames. It was a little simple, and the dialogue was a little juvenile, but it was a fun little time. And the soundtrack has been dug into my brain ever since. Don't know if I'd recommend it compared to their other works, but it's still a fun time. March was the month where a lot of games came out, and I played none of them aside from the obvious one. Ori and the Will of the Wisp was one I really wanted to get, but I just kind of forgot it over time. And I wanted to play Panzer Dragoon Remake, but I learned it was kind of trash, so I kind of skipped that one. Doom Eternal and Animal Crossing came out the same day, and I didn't really want to play either of them. With Doom, I just don't like giving Bethesda any sort of my money. And Animal Crossing was a series I couldn't give two shits about. But friends were pressuring me to play it, so I got it at a discount. And if you watch the video, you'll know I enjoyed bits of it, but I don't think I'll ever pick it up ever again. And I now know why I don't play these kinds of games. And there was also Cookie Mama Cookstar. That was a trip and a half. Okay, let's be perfectly clear here. April was the best month for games this year, and I played all the ones that I was interested in. I got two of them for Christmas, being Resident Evil 3 and Trials of Mana, two remakes completely different from what they originally started as. Well, not as fantastic as Resident Evil 2 Remake. RE3 was a total adrenaline rush, though I'm pretty terrible at it, because my aim is as accurate as a stormtrooper. Trials of Mana, however, was a blast from what I played. I enjoyed the original when it first released on the collection here in the West, and this is just much better in my opinion. But then you have Final Fantasy VII Remake. Lots of remakes this year, actually. I was heavily excited for this game for years, being a remake to one of my favorite games of all time. And it did not disappoint. The added sequences to the Midgard chapter were quite entertaining. The members of Avalanche were given more importance, and while it's not quite to the level of the original yet, because that entire game hasn't been included just yet, I'm very intrigued for what they're going to do for the rest. And ending the month was Streets of Rage 4, another game I was so excited for, and another one worth the wait. I've always loved the Streets of Rage series, but this game blows all of them out of the water if you ask me. With the gorgeous hand-drawn sprites, the comic book styles, cutscenes, fun new characters to play and fight against, and unsurprisingly, a kick-ass soundtrack. No pun intended. Honestly, just a good selection of quality and quantity. With the Layer 2 probably being some of my favorite games ever. Time will have to wait about that, but yeah, pretty good lineup if you ask me. Jeez, what happened here? Xenoblade, Phantasy Star Online 2, and Wonderful 101 were games that were remade or remastered for the current generation. Well, Phantasy Star was just localized, actually. There was Hatsumiko Mega Mix, which is just another Project Diva game, but it's now on a Nintendo console for the first time, so that's pretty neat. And there was a free game, Helltaker, that went somewhat viral then and kind of forgotten now. It's a fun little puzzle game, very charming too. But the big game this month was Shantae and the Seven Sirens. I made a video on this game as well, and while it looked great, played great, and had humor on par with the previous games, the level design was bland, the map system was a mess, the soundtrack was a far cry compared to Jay Coffin's work. But I got the limited run package 5 months later, and this adorable plush toy. You are no longer my favorite, Moogle. June is never a big month for games, it seems. You have the Battle for Bikini Bottom remake, didn't really care. There's Ninjala, heard that one kinda sucked. Clubhouse Games is Clubhouse Games, not much to say there. And there's a little game called The Last of Us Part 2. Oh lord, what can I say about this? I should start by saying I wasn't in love with the first game. I enjoyed Joel and Ellie, and the stealth mixed with horror really kicked in, but I just stopped after a few hours and never really felt like I wanted to go back. I got Part 2 at a discount, and going through the first few hours, I thought it was about as good as the first game. Won't go into what the internet likes to think about certain characters, but I will say thanks for getting me to play as a character that has no discernible likability. At least I get why Joel is a jackass, and he has some highlights, but geez, Abby is kind of a bitch. Maybe I'll get to know her later in the game, but I can see this going back on the shelf until I feel like talking about these games in detail. Don't count on that, though. Another month for big titles, and yet I only played one later in the year. The games I missed were Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 2, Paper Mario the Origami King, and Death Stranding. I'm interested in Bloodstained, I'll try that out in the future. And Death Stranding had potential, which had Kojima and Del Toro on the project. But from what I heard, it was just a walking sim, so I put off trying it out. And I'm not a Paper Mario guy, so I didn't really bother with Origami King. Now the game I did play was Ghost of Tsushima, thanks to Sucker Punch at the helm. They have never made a bad game as far as I'm concerned, and this game was absolutely no different. I loved the combat, the way the story was implemented, and the gorgeous visuals. Ugh. It's probably my game of the year alongside Final Fantasy VII and Streets of Rage 4. August had Battletoads, which I was excited for until I saw the diaper scene. I'm not kidding, there was a diaper scene. There was a new Samurai Jack game, which I hear fine things. I don't know, it didn't really appeal to me. Then again, I was never really a big Samurai Jack fan, but that's also because I didn't really watch a lot of it as a kid. I should probably change that in the future. But there was Fall Guys, which was actually the only game I played this month aside Among Us, which I thought was this year, but was actually 2018. Both were really fun, though you kinda need some friends for maximum enjoyment. September also had games I didn't really get into. I hear a lot of good things about Hades, but I'm just not interested at the moment. And Kirby Fighters 2 was a thing. I love Kirby, but I didn't really feel like paying $20 for just a Smash clone. But then you have the Mario 3D All-Stars collection, and it's 64 Sunshine and Galaxy with some graphical changes. But nothing much more. It's those games on a handheld for the first time, in a comfortable way. And they also had the soundtrack for all three games, but I wish they had some concept art, videos, and I would have liked for Galaxy 2 and 64DS included as unlockables at the very least. And maybe Luigi's Mansion so Sunshine can get something like that. At least it wouldn't be stranded on the 3DS, it's too good to be forgotten! Also, you can't talk about this without the whole limited time release thing. This collection, alongside Mario 35 and the localization of the first Fire Emblem, are going to be deleted from the digital shop in March 31st of this year. Now, for 3D All-Stars, it makes sense for physical releases. It's a special release, so I think that's fair. Digital releases are a completely different line to cross. Did Scott Pilgrim and PT not tell you anything? I feel like Nintendo is only doing this to make the game sell faster for their physical year to look more satisfactory to the shareholders, because otherwise, they have no excuse for this garbage. But considering they sold well, it sure damn worked. I don't know, I kind of hope they change their mind later down the road, but I'm not putting out much hope. Speaking of which, for October, there was Mario 35. It was fine. I'm terrible at Mario 1, and I keep dying at World 1-1, so yeah, no. The only games I played other than that were Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time and Pikmin 3 Deluxe. Did a video on the former, and I'm actually planning on doing a video on Pikmin 3 Deluxe soonish, so I won't say too much. I will say that I loved both of these games though, and the added content in Pikmin 3 Deluxe is just fantastic. Other than that, No More Heroes 1 and 2, Oddworld New and Tasty, Control, and Risky's Revenge got Switch releases, and the OG Shantae was supposed to be ported, but there's no sign of it yet. Amnesia Rebirth was another game I wanted to play, but I had no time for it. And yeah, that was practically October.
And here comes the beginning of the end.
Not only was the States having their own fun little party, but the next-gen consoles also came to town and attracted scalpers like a magpie to a wedding ring. It was a nightmare to look for one, but I, luckily, got a PlayStation 5 3 weeks after pre-orders started going out, bundled with Demon's Souls and Spider-Man Miles Morales. The PS5 had the ability to play most PS4 games, so the light launch didn't hurt much. But there was also Astro's Playroom pre-installed in the console. And for the first couple of months, you had Bugsnax, which I'd never played. Wasn't doing much for me, honestly. And there were also some PS4 games that were upgraded once you played them on the PS5, like Devil May Cry 5 and Spider-Man. Makes the PS4 almost pointless nowadays, though there are some PS4 and PSVR games that still won't work on the PS5. So that still has some worth to some people. Going over to the launch titles, I didn't care for Godfall, Sackboy's Adventure, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and Bugsnax as I said before. Astro's Playroom was a neat little tech demo for the DualSense controller, and it was certainly a nostalgia bomb. This pile of televisions really had me for a good few minutes. Miles Morales was also a very nice follow-up to the original Spider-Man game on PS4, though I didn't like that face. That voice does not fit Tom Holland's face. And the game actually crashed the console on this scene. First 2 months since launch and I already had to do a hard reset. And lastly, there was the Demon's Souls remake. I loved Dark Souls, so you know I was very interested in trying this one out. And yeah, it feels like beta Dark Souls, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Might consider this game whenever I go back to Twitch streams. But if you don't like ball-bustingly hard games, the PS5 means absolutely nothing to you. Every other game right now other than Astro is either on the PS4, Xbox One, Series X, Nintendo Switch, or Steam. So I say don't really bother right now. At the very least, don't think about giving in to the scalpers. Those people are freaking monsters who don't deserve your freaking cash. And I don't really know anything about the Series X, but don't give in to the scalpers for those either. And last of all, we have December, in which case, the only game of worth this month was Puyo Puyo Tetris 2. It's Puyo Puyo, it's Tetris, and it's 2. What's not to love? Well, you also had Cyberpunk's 2077. Every time I hear about this game, I feel bad for the devs who had to deal with all the crunch time. I kind of feel that way with Last of Us 2 as well, and my opinion on those games are biased against them thanks to that. No one should be overworked just to make a product good. Not like that happened with Cyberpunk. I mean, I was never really interested in Cyberpunk 2077, but it's kind of disappointing for the people who actually did buy it, and again, for the devs who had to be crunched just to make the deadline. Outside of that, there was Super Meat Boy Forever, which I wanted to play, but the moment I heard randomly generated levels, I quickly backed away. There was also that Immortal Phoenix Rising game that fell into obscurity really fast, and what the hell did they do to Worms? But that's it for the games, and all in all, not a bad lineup. I mean, it ended with Cyberpunk 2077 and Worms, and Last of Us Part 2 getting Game of the Year is a little bogus, since it might encourage more companies to do more crunch periods, but maybe I'm just an asshole for thinking that. But what happened outside of the games? Well, in terms of shows, I watched Fire Force, which was fairly good. Got a lot of Full Metal Alchemist vibes from it. And there was the Animaniacs reboot. Good lord, this show was still a knockout. Shame Hulu doesn't want to play nice in this household, so I didn't finish the first season, but what I did watch was fantastic. And in terms of movies, I watched Sonic the Hedgehog and Scoob. I have plans to talk about the Sonic movie this year, so I'll say wait for that and prepare to be surprised. Scoob was alright. I loved it at first watch, but watching it a second time, I found it rather underwhelming for it being less of a Scooby-Doo movie and more of a Hanna-Barbera fan service movie. Again, it's fine. I don't think it deserves all the hate on the internet, but it wasn't great either. Definitely wouldn't watch it again anytime soon. I didn't get to watch the 2 Pixar movies this year, and I don't remember if Disney or DreamWorks even released any movies. If they did, I completely forgot about them. In terms of streaming services, I mostly stuck to HBO Max for the entire year, and all I used it for was Whose Line, Last Week Tonight, and the entire Studio Ghibli collection. I'll be sure to watch more than that this year, and I may actually make some videos on stuff I've been watching. Sounds like a bit of fun for me, and to get a few smaller videos out this year. Speaking of which, actually, what are we going to see for the next year? Well, we have Sonic's 30th anniversary this year, as well as Metroid and Zelda's 35th, so we got some interesting stuff to think about. As for me, I'd like to push more videos out, at least get 2 regular videos out per month. Do more than video game related videos, and do some experimental stuff on top of that. But that's where I'm going to end it. And with that said,
Share your favorite games, movies, or TV shows of 2020 in the comments down below, and if you excuse me, I'm going to sleep.